What's up, gang, ladies and gentlemen of Traveling Arena? Your man Joe P. Spider here. Such a nice day today. Decided to come outside and make this video and talk about something that I've been asked many times about why don't I take short cruises? What's a short cruise? A short cruise, you could say, is one of those cruises where you're gone for like, I don't know, 3-4 days, then you're back. Now, me personally, I normally do 7-day cruises. I have done a 6-day cruise once, and I did a 5-day cruise once. And I only did that 5-day cruise because I wanted to go to a port that I only seen on the 5-day cruises, which is Progreso. So I wanted to go to Oaksmile. But normally I do 7. The longest I've done is 18 days, and that was a back-to-back cruise, but I'll do a video about that later. But I'll give you a few reasons as to why, me personally, I don't do short cruises, why I don't do 3- and 4-day cruises. One, obviously, not enough time. I mean, you're on the ship 3-4 days, and it's like it goes by like that. You know, I've never done one, but you know, obviously, I could see how quick it would be. I mean, heck, 7-day cruises go by quick for me, so I can imagine half of that. You know, you're only going to at the most 1 or maybe 2 ports, and you're only there for like a handful of hours, and then next thing you know, you gotta get on the ship and come back. Because like I said, time-wise, for me, it's not worth it. You know, one thing about a cruise is you like to explore, well, depending on the type of cruise you are, you know, you like to explore, especially like the ship alone. You know, especially if it's a newer ship that you've never been on before. I mean, the ship alone would take like 1-2 days just to get around and like, well, get to know your way around, and 2, know where everything is, and you know what all the features they got on there. You know, like water slides, adults only places you can go to, and if you have kids, you know, the teens club and all that stuff. You know, so that, you know, if you got 4 days, I mean, you're kind of like in a rush to know where all that stuff is. Whereas you're on like 7+, 7, 8, you know, 10 days. You know, you could take your time exploring the ship. You know, you got plenty of time ahead of you. You could take your time. You know, you can get used to the ship, know where everything is, and more importantly, you know, you get used to the crew. You know, you get to know the crew a little better. You know, you take your time, you get to know your room steward, you know, your bartenders and stuff like that. You know, you see them for, you know, a week plus. You know, you kind of get to know each other, get a feel for each other, versus 3-4 days, just like, you know, hey, how you doing, and bye. You know, just as quick. So time-wise, that's why I don't do a 7-day cruise, because it's not enough time. The next biggest one is money. I mean, depending on where you live, you get done, you know, with airfare or train fare, and you know, rental cars, and you know, taking care of Ubers and Lyfts and stuff like that. And not to mention, you know, your hotel or Airbnb or whatever. By the time you're done with all that, you would have spent more for that alone versus the actual vacation. You know, you could spend more, you know, especially if you're traveling with a family. You know, it's not just you, or even you and someone else. If you're not going on a solo trip, you know, by the time you pay for all that, skip sweaty here. You know, by the time you get paying for all that, you know, you spend more for that than you did the cruise itself. You know, and before you booked excursions or packages and stuff like that, which I'm gonna get to in a little bit, you know, you spent more just to get there and back and have a place to stay. You know, Airbnb or hotel, you may rent a car, you want to, you know, you may fly into Miami or New Orleans, you know, you want to drive around and all that stuff. You know, go to Bourbon Street or go to the Swamp, whatever. You know, maybe rent a car or do Airbnb, but you're paying more for that than you do the cruise. So, another thing, you know, when you go on these cruises, I'm quite sure you may get Wi-Fi package, drink packages, etc. You know, that's kind of money wasted right there. It's like, why even bother getting a package when you're not even going to be in the ship that long? Maybe, what, 1-2 days at the most? And then, you go off on wherever for a couple hours and you're back on the ship. Next thing you know, oh, time to come back home. That's another thing that I don't like is you can look at money you spend going on a trip versus money you spent on the trip itself. How much you spend going there and back. You want to kind of break even. You don't want to spend more money just to get there and back than you do on the actual trip itself. I mean, that's just me. All right. And two, like I said, it feels kind of rushed. You're on the island maybe a couple hours. And some people think that it's a good way to get into cruising. But to me, it's not, because your first impression was, we were kind of rushed, or we didn't have enough time to see this part of the ship. Or, we were in the Bahamas and we didn't get a chance to, go to this place. We were in Grand Cayman and we didn't get a chance to go to hell. Stuff like that. So, you feeling rushed, even if, like I said, you're a beginner, you don't want to feel rushed. You want to go on a cruise, you want to relax, you want to take your time, you want to explore. I mean, your first time cruising, you want to know everything about the ship, everything about cruising, dining, your crew, the staff, how they take care of you, what they do, the ship itself, things to do, things not to do. Smoking sections, know where they are, because you don't want to be a smoker and you have to rush and, well, where am I going to go smoke? Whereas, you on a cruise for like a week or so, you already know exactly where to go. You just take your time getting there. But as a new cruiser, me personally, I'm against you taking a 4-day cruise. Like I said, it's up to you. It's your money. You do what you want. But I'm against it, because I like for you to be introduced properly. Take your time. Get to know the ship. Get to know the crew. Get to know the destinations that you're at. And more importantly, get more for your money. If you're going to spend money, flying into New Orleans or flying into Puerto Rico, damn it, make the most of it. 3-4 days is not making the most of your money. That's just, like I said, that's my opinion. That's just how I feel. You're going to spend money, enjoy it, go all out, have a good time. Don't waste it, for 3-4 days. And like I said, something I said to a friend of mine, I was like, you do a 3-day cruise, don't even bother changing your drawers, don't even bother changing, hey, what's the point, don't even bother changing your drawers, But I say at least 6 or 7 days, but like 3 or 4, to me, that's not enough. I've been on about 15 cruises or so, and the minimum I do is like I said, 7 days, and that's good enough for me. And I've done longer. I've done 18 days. Sure, that was 5, and even like the 5-day cruise, that was short. But like I said, I only did that because I wanted to go to a certain port that was only available on a 5-day cruise. So that's why I don't do short cruises. I want to enjoy my time, and most importantly, I want to enjoy my money. And the more I have, the better it is. And when you're on a ship, one of the things I like to do is kick back and relax. I like to make the ship home. I like to make my room my room. I mean, you do a 3-day cruise, by the time you unpack, now it's time to repack. Heck, don't even bother unpacking. Just leave your suitcase on the floor and just take what you need. And like I said, don't unpack. Like when I go on the cruise, when I unpack, I make the room mine. set everything up the way I like to set up. But yeah, that's why I don't do short cruises. Alright, feel free to comment below. How do you feel about short cruises? You know, do you like them? Do you not like them? You know, have you done them before? You know, just comment down below how you feel. Alright, and I will talk to you later. See you in the next video. Spider out.